1, 2, is this on?
And now, coming to you live on NewAgeInsiders.com.
We are the premier place for wrestling fans to connect, discuss, and to be heard.
Please welcome Jason Maltoff.
We watch wrestling to enjoy. If you're not enjoying it, why are you watching?
Liam Stryker.
If I told you once, I told you 1,000 times. Storytelling, storytelling, storytelling.
And Bill Neville.
Unpredictability is the answer. When wrestling's unpredictable, it's at its best.
Get ready.
This is Warbeard Hansen. This is Johnny Mundo.
This is Donovan Dijak.
Say hello to the bad guy, Scott Hall.
This is Mean Gene Okerlund.
This is Zack Ryder.
Hey, this is Cody Rhodes.
Hi, this is Howard Finkel.
Hi, this is good old JR Jim Ross.
I'm Bill Goldberg, and the New Age Insiders are next.
Burn it down!
Such an angry way to start this show.
I like it.
Oh, God. But that Burn It Down definitely adds so much to his
It's crazy,
song.
right? It's
More than the silence.
Right.
fun little fact for you. Alfred Hitchcock pitched Psycho without the violin part during the infamous shower stabbing.
Right.
And when he brought it to a panel to have it be reviewed, they're like, "This movie's pretty boring. I can't really seem to get into it."
Yeah.
And then he added that, and then he submitted it to what was at the time the equivalent of the Motion Picture Association that would rate these things, and they went, "This movie's borderline too scary to hit theaters."
Yeah, right.
And so
right.
sometimes a little bit of music can go a long way.
Right. Well, I mean, that's just true. Wrestling is such an auditory experience. I mean, that glass shattered. Everybody gets excited.
It's very Pavlovian.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
It's just like when I used to hear like bam, 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 it was like, oh, it's on. You know what I mean? And then the glass shattering, or there's also, if
Mick Foley's car crash.
I think you could I'm serious. I think you could put 15,000 people that don't like The Rock in a building, and then if you smell, and they will all stand up and they will all cheer.
Yeah, right.
All of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then for that moment in time, they do like The Rock. Seth Rollins, but with maybe we're going to talk about it in more detail and welcome our guest in just a second. But I mean, one of the best performances I've seen, and I don't like to throw me. It says on our show sheet, not everything is the biggest thing that's ever happened.
Evered?
Right. And this it literally says that on the show sheet. But this wasn't the greatest WWE physical performance of all time, but you got to start putting it in the conversation of one of the best physical performances I've ever seen on Raw.
Yeah. Well, and the big thing is when we talk about Seth Rollins' performance in that Gauntlet match today, that was WWE hitting the reset button, at least in my opinion.
I don't know. The Roman Reigns was the last out of the Royal Rumble, the first out in the Gauntlet match. WWE logic tells you that means he definitely wins the Elimination Chamber, which is where your safest money still is.
I don't know, those steroids, man. Those steroids.
It's the definite fork
also,
in the road that might be coming.
Also,
I don't know if we're there
we're
yet,
like 3 minutes into this thing. Strap in, because my Roman Reigns, I'm on the warpath, is going to happen later.
Okay. I hate to be the good guy.
Yep.
With Roman Reigns. We haven't talked about Roman Reigns in like a month.
Yeah, so strap in, everybody, because I'm going to get down and dirty.
Before we jump in to the show, we do have a very special guest, James Stewart. He is the producer of the Felger and Maz radio show in Boston. Anyone throughout New England and certainly the Boston area knows that show. It's the number one rated afternoon show in Boston and has been for years and years and probably always will be. James is a big reason for that, both creatively, what he does behind the scenes, and the input he has on the show. He's going to be our fourth man in. Liam is not running errands.
No, I'm not running errands today.
James is going to be our fourth man in. We're psyched to have him, but before we do have a bit of housekeeping, but right?
Housekeeping
news to announce.
Do we have a jingle? No, we don't have a jingle.
There's been a lot of mumblings, and the best part about what we do is that we have truly a neighborhood. We have a community. I know one of my buttons online is like, we're a community and everything's a community. It's like 3 people like the same video game and they're a community. It's like, no, you're not. But we do have one, and that comes with people talking and sharing and knowing things. And so we just want to kind of clear the air about exactly what is going on, what the future holds, and what we're doing, because it's actually really great stuff and exciting, and we're really, really excited about it. And so the veil of mystery should go away, and we're just going to talk about it. So the New Age Insiders Wrestling Network, as constituted, had hit kind of a roadblock. which was there were too many shows in one place. The way that Liam has equated it before, and he's right, is like Baseball Tonight and Around the Horn.
If you were to subscribe to ESPN podcasts because you enjoy ESPN content, you don't subscribe to ESPN, the podcast feed, and every day you're bombarded with Around the Horn, PTI, the fantasy baseball show, the fantasy basketball show,
right?
And I don't even know if this is a thing, but Rome is burning, right? You're not you don't get those.
Yep.
Instead, you subscribe to each one of them individually based on your tastes and what you like. So logic dictates. That's how the New Age Insiders Network should operate.
Think of a record label, right? So if Death Row had Tupac and who else did Death Row have that was big at the time?
I don't know.
So I'll keep it on the East Coast.
I don't know if you know this,
but
but if you watch this show live on Twitch at twitch.tv/New Age Insiders Pop, you would realize that I am a very, very white gentleman with a very red beard. I don't know West Coast hip hop.
See, I do, and I love hip hop, so I'll stay on the East Coast, right? So what Diddy used to give you was Mace, who is painfully underrated. Mace was awesome. Mace would rap over the hook because he wasn't done yet.
Yeah, we'll do our East Coast rap podcast later.
And the Notorious B.I.G. And the Notorious B.I.G. and Mace did some stuff together, right? But Biggie released albums and Mace released albums, and they were under the same label. And that's what we're going for here. And so with DC and Doc, so first and foremost, let me say it for the millionth time, and needs to be said, DC Matthews is a huge part of what we do. He has been for years. Yep. I consider him a personal friend. I love Doc Manson. He's a huge part of what we do. I love their show. As a fan, if they went away forever and told us to go screw, which they didn't, I would still listen to their show. I love them, and DC has put in as much sweat equity in this thing as almost anybody, and that needs to be, and I'm talking about including us, like the three of us. So DC and Doc, they have a channel, and the Logjam, by the way, the issue that we had was people would say, sometimes I don't get a chance to listen on Wednesdays or Thursdays, and sometimes I don't even get to listen to that week. And then to find the last episode you guys did, sometimes it's behind 5, 6, 7 things. We would have people say, I'm looking for DC and Doc, right? I'm looking for what was the Shattered Glass Cast. We'll get to that. And it was buried behind 5, 6, 7 things. Some people only choose download most recent. And then you have a roll of the dice as to whether that show is going to be there. So what we're doing is DC and Doc.
Well, and selfishly, there's also the case of people discovering us for the first time and not necessarily hearing the New Age Insiders.
And not knowing what's going on.
And not knowing what's going on, because everybody that's listening to the show for the 5th time or even for the 2nd time kind of gets the deal. But if you've just stumbled onto the experience, it would be very confusing if you stumbled in on a Friday and the first thing you hear is the Rant with Ant. Well,
I've been backstage with people who have told me, I looked for your show and I'm not quite sure who you are on a show, on a channel with other people.
Right.
And so imagine if you're, DC and Doc, and you're like, listen to us here. And they go, who the hell are you? I've never heard your show before. It's tough. And so what we've done is DC and Doc already have their own channel.
Yep.
The list is going over there. They are now fully endorsed by the New Age Insiders. The network is not dissolving. We still call them network shows and affiliates or whatever the hell we need to call it, right? Nothing's changing, except now when I link out the stuff and go, listen to this awesome show, it'll be a different link. You should subscribe and download to their stuff directly, which I bet you already do.
Yeah.
And on the New Age Insiders website that's coming out March 15th and is getting totally revamped, they will be highlighted and spotlighted. You will see DC contribute in more ways, not less, as we move forward.
I've been taking over revamping the YouTube channel, so head on over to the YouTube channel, start subscribing to that, developing shows like Rapid Rant. I have Striker Stories over there, as well as excerpts from this very show, different stuff broken up, and then there's more content to be on the way. I've been working with all of these shows, so you'll see DC and Doc there. You'll see more stuff from Phil from the Rant with Ant. You'll see stuff from the guys from For the Pops. I'm talking with Jamie Jermikowski and Scotty Slade about developing more stuff for the YouTube, so head on over there, because that's where, while we're not all on the same feed, we're all still connected and we're still on the same team. So those are going to be the ways that you see these guys and how we all interact as a community. These meetups and all of these different types of things will still go on. We're still going to go and travel to WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble and, SummerSlam and have those events like a huge family like we always have been, because none of this is a negative. This is just making a streamlined experience for the listener. How do we valued too much on the general population listening to these shows the day they come out.
Right.
And that's unfair to you, and it's unfair to the shows. So doing it this way gives you a whole week to just listen to the shows that you enjoy.
Yep, and we will still make them available. If you follow us, you will hear about them just as much as you ever did, if not more. Really quick, because I want to get Jimmy on and start the show. The WPAN, we told them about what we were doing. We told them the same kind of idea. You guys have your own feed ready to go. They said, hey, guys, if things are going to be changing that way, they really just kind of wanted to focus on what they've got going on and thought it'd be better for them to kind of be considered free agents, independent contractors, whatever it may be. I still, for saying it on the air, because I hope they're listening, Mike Crockett, I still love you. I love running India. I love seeing you. Brian Malonis, I still love you. I love your matches. I'm rooting for the Kingpin. I know you're not the Kingpin anymore.
Should be the Mastodon.
I was listening to their most recent show. He doesn't want to be the Mammoth. They went over that in the most recent show. But Brian Malonis, I still love you. I still root for you as a wrestler. I still like you as a person. I still think your show is top-notch, fantastic stuff, and I will still recommend it to anybody who asks and people that don't even ask, because the WPAN is great stuff. The Glass Cast is being repackaged. Damien and Chip kind of hit their stride in kind of the pop culture world. That is going to be repackaged as Salty Chips, because how could it not be?
Brilliant.
With Damien, Salty G, and Chip, it'll be Salty
Chip.
Chips. It'll be kind of a wrestling variety show that those guys bring to you again on their own straight feed that Chip already had waiting to go. We just changed the name of it, and we will link that out. Feature them on the website, all the same as we're going to be doing with DC, all the same we're going to be doing with Salty Chips. Anything that we branch out in the future is going to get the same opportunity to get fully plugged, commercials run on this show, spotlight on the website. We are still one big team and family. And a programming note, The Rant with Ant will be staying on the same feed because Ant did not have a feed ready to go.
Right.
The Rant with Ant is a New Age Insiders creation. That is our show that the Phil, G-Rod, and Ant have clearly obviously made it their own and made it their own thing, and it is obviously awesome. I'm not saying otherwise. But
coming out of the Wrestle Addict, we gave Ant the platform to create and mold and shape the show that he has taken the ball and gotten to a rocket ship and taken off with.
Exactly. And so they are going to be moving 2 Mondays. That way they can be on our feed 2 days a week, and we will be there 5, which is really the big goal here, is to make sure when you come to us and say, I can't find your old stuff, I'm trying to binge, and you've made it impossible, well, we're alleviating that problem. And now when you want to go find DC Matthews directly, you can. When you want to go find Chip and Damien directly, you can. We're also going to be we're not letting go of McCool, because the 3 count is going to be added as its own independent show.
Coming back.
Hugely popular segment. That's going to be its own show. McCool is going to have a variety of different hosts. It's going to be captained by Matt McCool. We're not breaking up with him either. And the 3 count that you already love, where he takes your questions, answers them directly, that's going to be a show. And we're thinking about, breaking it up and making it a video show that could be part of the YouTube experience. McCool's not going anywhere either. The 3 count with Matt McCool is going to be part of the NAI Wrestling Network, just as he's been part of the NAI Wrestling Network since we started one. The network is strong. It's just a little different. But I promise when you
Change is scary, but it's not that scary.
Promise when you see the website, it's going to be and make a lot more sense. And I promise when you want to listen to 3 straight episodes of your favorite show, and now you're going to go, oh, now I get it. That's what's happening in NAI Wrestling. Nothing but good stuff. The end. The number 1 rated.
Now for pop.
And we're out. The number 1 rated afternoon show in Boston is Felger and Maz, and that is not just because of the 2 hosts. That's because of the outstanding production staff they have, and the producer who, I don't know how, but seems to be basically the number 1 basketball insider in the country.
It's insane.
It's almost eerie how much James Stewart knows, and he's also a gigantic longtime wrestling fan and fan of the Kowloon restaurant and Andy Wong, which instantly makes him a good person.
As are we.
Yeah, right. Oh, huge. I support Andy Wong more than this.
Anytime I'm north of Boston, I always try to hit Kowloon.
I've given Andy Wong more money than I've given the New Age Insiders,
yes.
I'll tell you that much.
Yes.
So James Stewart joins the New Age Insiders live. Thank you so much for taking the time. We're really excited to have you be the 4th man in on this edition.
Hello, my name is James Stewart, and I am the one behind the 3 who are number 1 in all of Boston sports talk radio.
Oh.
I'm a gossiping radio producer, so if I'm right, I get all the credit, and if I'm wrong, it's just me gossiping. And any match in Japan, and especially the Tokyo Dome, gets an extra 3 stars in my rating system.
Wow. You're like a little bit of Schefter and a little bit of Meltzer and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, Dave Meltzer was on the radio today.
Yeah, he was.
That's because Rob Gronkowski's making news.
It's news.
We're going to talk about that. But James, the thing that I think the wrestling world is buzzing about this week specifically is Monday Night Raw. Everything about it I thought felt great and different and refreshing. The Patreons know because we have an experience with them all throughout Monday Night Raw. The first 2 hours flew by. It was an amazing match. It was amazing change to see 2/3 of this show get dominated by one match that continuously kept my attention.
Right.
So just kind of around the table, what did you guys think of Raw this week? What did you think of the Gauntlet match? And of course, what did you think of Seth Rollins' 65-minute performance, stealing the show in something that was an A+ show?
James, I'll defer to you first. You're our guest, so you get to speak first.
So I thought the whole Gauntlet match was great. I love the storytelling with Seth Rollins in the span of an hour defeating John Cena and Roman Reigns, the two biggest stars in WWE, which leads me to believe that Seth Rollins is going to play an important part of WrestleMania, and it might be as the tag team partner of Ronda Rousey. I love how the ratings actually showed that this is something that the fan wants. We're so conditioned for Monday Night Raw to have the guy who's with the clicker, and it's like, oh my, what's this? Stop there. But what they did was, over the course of 2 hours, they told you an in-ring story, and people watched, and people bought into it, and the crowd bought into it. So hopefully there's more. And I did a little gossiping. Credit goes to Triple H for this.
Shocking.
Triple H,
shocking.
It was his idea. It was his child to go into it, and it did well. So I think you'll probably see more of this type of performance going forward.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because Triple H has been quoted when he does these the shareholder meeting conference calls as saying, like, he the comparison he made himself was, I don't care how good a movie is. If you ask me to sit there for 3 hours, after 2, I start looking at my watch. And that's what he equated to Monday Night Raw, which is like, look, I get why we're 3 hours. It's because USA says so and we make more money that way. But if I had my way, it wouldn't be. And so him kind of changing that up doesn't surprise me at all.
You know, it's crazy because it's a tale of two shows, right? Like, figuratively and literally. You look at Raw and SmackDown. Raw starts, we have a quick promo from Roman Reigns, and then we just get into it. And we go, and there's a ton of wrestling on this wrestling show for 2 hours.
Yep.
And it was captivating. It was exciting.
Yep.
They told a great story that got me from point to point to point, and then spiced it up by adding the actual, like, little backstage interviews into it. And then you look at SmackDown, and SmackDown was the same 2 hours as that match, right? And it was just a truck pull.
Just a bore.
It was a truck pull.
It's a bore.
Why? Because they kept breaking down segments with talking and people just nonsensically babbling on, and it was just so tough. It was so tough to get invested in anything. And that's a huge that is a huge great move by WWE.
One day we're going to do a show where we talk about what the hell happened with SmackDown. In a nutshell, it's 3 things to me, and we talked about it with the Patreons last night. It's 3 things. One, they moved the head writer of SmackDown over back to Raw, right?
Yeah.
That's why Raw is better and SmackDown is worse. They let go of a writer that was not only one of the most respected writers there, but Kevin Owens' like guy, which pissed him right off. And then if you notice, that was when we heard those like, Sammy and Kevin are getting tough to work with. He was pissed because they let his favorite writer go. And then the third thing, and again, it's not tonight's show, but yeah, Jinder Mahal stabbed this show. The world champion Jinder Mahal stabbed this show in the throat and left it for dead in the woods. Right. You know what I mean? And it's starting to really catch up to them, in my opinion, but that's for another day. Seth Rollins. I want to talk about Seth Rollins because what Seth Rollins did, again, I don't like to throw a ton of hyperbole on things, and I'm not Michael Cole, right? This isn't the biggest, this most likely isn't the biggest thing that's ever happened in the history of pro wrestling. I don't know. I'll go back and check, but I'm not sure. But at the same time, it is worth applauding. 65 minutes, and it's a fun little footnote, but you got to remember who he is. Seth Rollins worked for 65 minutes on Monday. Since WrestleMania 33, Brock Lesnar's worked for 62.
Okay.
So that's amazing. And just what it was, that performance, kind of stealing the show.
Well, the big thing is, and my reaction to this is, Seth Rollins, somebody has to replace this Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns it's very real. The steroids allegations and everything that's coming out with that is very real, and I've talked about it on this show, and this will be another thing. If Roman Reigns has to serve a suspension or something around WrestleMania season, that's got to be it for me if I'm WWE, because again, you've proven that you're not available when we build these big things around you. Because what if all of a sudden this really explodes, in the middle of March, towards the end of March, when we're really into WrestleMania season, and WrestleMania is not only in the season but 2 weeks away.
You can't deny it.
Right.
It's the cloud hanging over the whole thing.
And now Roman Reigns has found a way, right? Because the illness is the illness, and I can't give 100% of the fault to that. But you're looking at it, and we built this year of programming around you, and at the end, you're not going to be able to cross the finish line. We built the Shield reunion around you, and you weren't able to cross the finish line. We were going to build that Royal Rumble around you, and you couldn't cross the finish line. The Shield triple threat couldn't cross the finish line. And it's like, how many of these are we going to do before we give up on you? And Seth Rollins, that performance was the vote of confidence that I think WWE showed its fan base, that we hear you, we understand, you like this guy, and this is our vote of confidence in this guy.
I wish I believed that too. I still think Roman Reigns wins the chamber, and what Monday was, which is still a good thing, was stop tweeting us that we don't like Seth Rollins anymore. We do. James, what did you think of Seth Rollins' performance? Where do you rank it? What do you think about it? 65 minutes on a Monday Night Raw is not bad.
I thought Seth Rollins' performance, I think it proved that crossfitting works.
He was pliable.
I think overall, it's putting him in a stronger position so that they can kind of use him as a wild card if they need to fill in gaps someplace. Just the one about Roman is, I think the WWE has kind of proven that their testing, it means something, but it doesn't mean as much as people want it to mean. And I think Vince McMahon has had it in his head for a long time now that Roman Reigns is beating Brock Lesnar in New Orleans.
Right.
And I think come hell or high water, it's going to happen. And I think generally speaking, for the hardcore fan, wrong finish. I think that they should, to appease everybody, they do a triple threat match, elimination style. Roman Reigns pins Brock Lesnar during the course of that match. And that gives Vince his Roman Reigns beats Brock Lesnar fall that he wants. That he's won since WrestleMania in San Francisco. And then they have Braun Strowman beat Roman Reigns and win the Universal Championship, which gives the crowd in New Orleans what they want. Now, the argument is that Braun doesn't need the championship because he's this generation's Andre, and he's bigger than the championship. But what it sets up, too, is if you still want Roman chasing the title, and then it sets up another program where Brock Lesnar is the challenger to Braun Strowman, who seemingly has had his number, hasn't been able to beat Brock Lesnar.
Well, the thing, I agree with James that seems to be the biggest thing is I think this is much more, Monday was much more about Seth Rollins than Roman Reigns.
Yes.
Because I still think Roman Reigns is going to win this chamber because Vince McMahon said so, and that's sort of how these things go, right? But there's got to be something to be said for why we made Seth Rollins look so good. Right. And I don't think, the problem I have with the Seth Rollins thing and looking so great is I think he's actually still, despite everything that happened on Monday, third most likely to win at best. Yeah. Sometimes I think he's still fifth.
Well, because he's the only one that has an actual storyline heading into WrestleMania. Whether he's wrestling Kurt Angle or Jason Jordan, he's very much entrenched in both of those guys. So having him win the Elimination Chamber to go on to face Brock Lesnar doesn't really feel like that's what we're telling, especially when Braun Strowman seems to apparently have Brock Lesnar's number, right? It's just been Brock has been able to escape via opportunity because of these multi-man situations.
Yep.
Then Roman Reigns, we all know what the deal is with Roman Reigns, and then they keep bringing up Finn Balor wants to reclaim the title he never lost. And they've really, really dug their heels into that portion of the storyline. And that's the best one. That's the best one, is Finn Balor coming back from injury to win the title he never lost at WrestleMania from the unslayable monster.
I know.
Right? That's the best story.
I know.
We did a whole thing on it. Go onto YouTube. It's all there. Right? But that Seth Rollins doesn't fit into that equation, and he doesn't fit into that equation because
He also doesn't feel like he's the guy that's going to beat Brock Lesnar.
Right.
That's still the biggest win this company can offer you right now.
Right.
It is. I want to kind of focus on Seth Rollins a little bit because I understand that Elimination Chamber is coming up Sunday. By the way, if you're new, we are going to be live before and after Elimination Chamber. We'll take your calls Sunday afternoon. What do you think is going to happen? What do you want to happen? Are the titles changing hands? It's the last Raw pay-per-view before WrestleMania, and then after the pay-per-view, we take your calls again. What did happen? What'd you think of the show? It's one of the more fun times we have as these pay-per-view post shows, so make sure that you jump right in. If you're listening live, you can find it right here. It's the same place, twitch.tv/New Age Insiders Pop, or on our Mixler. If you can't get a chance to listen live, make sure you're subscribing to us on iTunes, Podomatic, Lork Normal, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play to get all the shows and everything that we offer. If you want to really get everything we offer, that's on Patreon. Patreon.com/New Age Insiders is where you can find everything that we got going on. 5 exclusive shows, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, basically daily rewards that we've got going on. Sunday, almost every day. And everybody that signed up we have yet to have somebody unsubscribe and say this wasn't worth it to me. So that's what makes us feel happiest, is people feel like it's worth it. Patreon.com.
And every day,
every day,
someone new.
We're also trying to get Jimmy back on the line. As you could hear, there was a connection issue, so we're trying to get James back on the line. But what I want to talk about real quick before we deviate more into the other stuff that happened is Seth Rollins. 65 minutes in this match. So whether or not that was to leapfrog Roman Reigns, I don't know. I want to kind of treat it as what it was on its own.
Right.
65 minutes. He pinned Roman Reigns and John Cena, which is like pinning Hulk Hogan and John Cena. and then just one of, again, I don't want to throw too much gravy on it, but one of the most impressive things I've seen, at least in Raw history.
Well, that's the guy, right? For those of us who have watched Tyler Black, right? That's the guy that showed up. That Seth freaking Rollins showed up on Monday Night Raw.
The knee looked pretty good, right?
And the knee looked great. But that's the guy that showed up. He was a star. There's a reason why they put the first NXT title on him. He was the blue chip, number 1 top prospect back then. They built the Shield around him, basically, and this is finally the guy getting his feet under him to be that star maker. He was never really, he was a okay, smarmy heel, but the hero babyface and the high-flying acrobatics and the very, very fast-paced offense is what drew him to people, right? Or people to him. So that's the guy that showed up on Monday.
Rollins is the kind of guy that probably it's weird because it's not a Seth Rollins thing. You notice it more with a guy like Seth Rollins because he's a big deal and you care about him, and there's people out there that he's their favorite guy. I think that Seth Rollins is the best total package they're offering right now under the age of 40. You know what I mean? Because the real best total package guy is still, whether you like it or not, John Cena. But it is. It is. He's still the best. But Seth Rollins in that new crop, that new wave, he is the most balanced performer we have. If we had to look at his stats, he would be the one that just feels the most balanced. And it's a WWE problem, not a Seth Rollins problem. But when he's a heel, he's more interesting. When he's a babyface, his matches are better. You know what I mean? That's a WWE thing because they don't give baby faces compelling storylines because they're just like, you're going to say, great to be here in Boston. They're going to love you. You know what I mean?
And then you're going to get beat up and you're going to be like, oh, can they do it?
Right. And then you'll lose 3 out of 4 matches, but that 4th one's the one that counts. You know what I mean? Because that's how it works. It's when you're a bad guy that Seth Rollins becomes more like interesting. He's hanging out with Triple H. He's stabbing people in the back. He's unpredictable. He's making chocolate statues of himself.
But he's bringing out cinder blocks.
But then you can tell what they do with their they're bad guys, it's blatantly obvious to me as they go, cut the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Remember when Cesaro for like a good chunk of time just stopped doing the swing?
Yep.
It was too popular. You know what I mean? It's so I can tell that's why Seth Rollins didn't do as many like frog splashes. And although we've been told it's for completely different reasons, the curb stomp went away.
Yeah.
Maybe you liked it too much. You know what I mean? And you
the
weren't-
curb stomp went away, but the blackout came back.
That's true. But you know what I mean? Like, I know that they said that it was because you could do it at home, and I believe there's truth to that because they are conscious about it. But at the end of the day, the curb stomp, one of the reasons I bet is because you like it too much, and you're not supposed to like this guy. I've said it before, we changed Stone Cold Steve Austin's music because it was too popular.
It's too popular.
He's a bad guy now.
Yeah.
And so with Seth...
They also changed his personality so that he was a big giant puss.
He was the opposite. He was the anti-Steve Austin.
He was a big giant meow.
But with Seth Rollins, that's where we are, is if you're going to tell me that Seth Rollins gets to be a babyface, so his matches are more exciting, and maybe with a performance, a spotlight, a look at this guy type of thing, now he's going to do something terrific.
Yeah.
Great. He should always be doing stuff. Do we have James back in the line? I see that's not going great. That's too bad. We'll figure it out. We have a whole other segment that he wanted to be part of in the first place, so we'll make that happen.
Right.
So I was trying to think of other performances that I think stack up. And to be fair, not all of these are Monday Night Raw. So what I'm going to say is this. I believe it's an all-time Monday Night Raw performance.
Yeah.
I think we need to maybe consider, and that's a definite, we need to maybe start considering it an all-time WWE physical performance. I think we need to talk about that. And what I'm absolutely putting my stamp on is it's the best performance in the history of 3-hour Raw.
Okay. Was Shelton Benjamin and Shawn Michaels 3 hours?
I don't care. That wasn't better than what Seth Rollins did. He pinned John Cena and Roman Reigns and worked 65 minutes. That super kick was sweet.
Yeah, it was.
Right, but that was not better than what Seth Rollins did Monday night.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I've seen on a 3-hour Raw.
Yeah.
But it might be, and we'll talk about this too when the time's right, maybe even tonight, that might be the best 3-hour Raw.
It was. It was probably the most captivating.
That we talk all the time, and we're not blowing smoke when we say it's a great time to be a WWE fan. Well, that might be the best 3-hour Raw.
Well, it also shows you, the thing that just reminds me that WWE is the best at this is because that is a match of the year candidate.
Yep.
And they were able to do that when they want to.
Yeah. That made Rollins early favorite for Superstar of the Year.
Yeah.
It's February, but it counts. So I was trying to think of performances that I thought were also great. And again, they're not all on Monday Night Raw because it's difficult because, a lot of people save the A game for the pay-per-view. I understand.
Right.
But I'm thinking of Shawn Michaels Iron Man because that was over 60 minutes with Bret Hart.
Right.
And I gotta also chalk that one up to Bret too. He was there. So what Bret and Shawn did, what I would say though is what's crazy is Shawn and or Bret worked with each other so they were both equally tired. Rollins worked a great match with Roman Reigns, and then John Cena came in, and then he worked a third guy.
Drifter.
Right, everybody getting fresher than him.
Yeah.
Not like Bret and Shawn, whose battery was draining at the same pace.
Right, yeah. They're wrestling together. They're not wrestling. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because there's only a few Monday Night Raw performances that I even remember, right? And one of them is The Big Show and Braun Strowman, mostly because he puts them through the cage, and it was a very cool performance, and it was new, right? So that comes to mind. Yeah. CM Punk versus John Cena for the right to face The Rock. That comes to mind. That was a very, very energetic match. That was very, very good. But
I'm sure Jeff Hardy's jumped off stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's amazing.
He jumped off of one of the sets.
Right.
But
he's great at it.
Yeah,
he doesn't care if he lives or dies. It's unbelievable to watch.
It is unbelievable to watch. But looking at that, it's really tough to say that he is that performance there was anything better.
Right.
Because you're right. Maybe Shawn and Bret was one.
Then I start getting into, and I know it's a whole other can of fish. Kettle of fish?
Kettle of fish.
Can of fish. No one eats
tuna fish.
Don't eat canned fish. Unless it's tuna.
Tuna fish.
Okay, maybe you can eat tuna.
Yeah, but don't eat
fish.
canned salmon.
I wouldn't, right?
No.
Canman?
A canman?
Gross. But now I'm thinking of stuff like Brock Lesnar almost breaks his neck and finishes the match. Triple H
tears his quad
off the bone
and lets Chris Jericho put him in a
right and finishes the match and is part of the finish to the match. Right. Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, Ric Flair, because to me they're all the same. Ric Flair was 2, everybody. He had no advantage in the 92 Royal Rumble.
Right.
So Mysterio, Benoit, and Ric Flair going the distance. You know what I mean? And winning.
And Shawn.
And Sean, right. And Sean, I have him on the thing. Mysterio, Benoit, Michaels, Flair going the distance. Finn Balor at this Royal Rumble was number 2 and lasted the final 4.
He almost went an hour.
Right, he was 2, made it to the final 4. Does that sound right?
58 minutes,
something like that.
Yep.
But then I gotta tell you here that the common denominator is, for the most part, I know the Rumble kind of plays with it.
Well, this is the thing. This is the most impressive because the Royal Rumble. Like Ric Flair spent, if you watch that match, right? Like, yeah, it's impressive that you lasted that whole time, but yeah, you're hanging onto the bottom rope for 90% of it. Benoit, you're hanging onto the bottom rope for 90% of it. It was 1-on-1 for an hour
with 3 different people. 2 of which are top performers who need to get their shit in.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they did. He kicked out of that like second AA or the whatever AA, and I was like, you got to this is magic. Like, I thought what they were going to do was have him beat everybody, and then Braun Strowman would pin him in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Because he was basically a human bag of broken bones at this point.
Right.
And then Braun Strowman would just lay on them.
Well, see, my whole thought process was he was going to get to the Miz, and the Miz was going to cheap his way into it.
Yeah, right.
But just to twist that knife a little bit more.
Don't let that footnote go away without talking about it very quickly, too. It's worth noting to me, it really sincerely is, that in that match, Seth Rollins was going to shine, right?
Right.
But the Intercontinental Champion didn't get to pin him, and Braun Strowman didn't get to pin him,
right?
And John Cena didn't get to pin him, and they had him pin Roman Reigns. They gave that to the Drifter,
right?
And that's the win, and you said it first. That's the win that would have gone stereotypically to The Miz. That heat, break your heart, this guy's put it all out there win. Continually, it's not even subtle anymore. The Drifter's gonna be a big deal,
and he should be. There's nothing like when he came into NXT at first. He was stupid and annoying, right? Yeah. But much like the Miz,
then El Vagabundo happened and the world changed.
Right, and that's kind of what ends up happening with these guys. They just need to find a way to click, and then once they click, you actually get to see how good these performers are.
Ironically, the thing that got him over is something he doesn't even do anymore, which was the'd be a random like Bayley and Sasha Banks segment, and he would just drift by. He doesn't even do that anymore, and he's getting over.
Yeah, right. It's amazing watching him because he is a big deal, which is great because thank the Triple H's, right? That's I'm going to use that now as like instead of thank God. Thank the Triple H's. Thank Triple H because it feels like they're now investing in this next wave because they've been so stubborn to not do it. And to be fair, a lot of the guys weren't ready. Brock Lesnar's first WWE championship where he abused John Cena in that crime that happened, and like that, the guys weren't ready. All of the kids needed another year of finishing school.
Those 2014.
Right.
We weren't there.
Now we're there. We are there now.
And don't complain, Internet. They've all won. Even
everybody,
all of the people. There were 4 people. Let's call them 4 people.
Yep.
That in 2014 were getting just buried.
Right.
Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Bray Wyatt. They are all former champions now.
Some of them multiple times.
Exactly. And Bray Wyatt walked into WrestleMania with that belt
last year.
Right.
So he's doing okay.
Right. So everything's going to be all right. I promise. But yeah, when we have to start talking about the fact that Brock Lesnar worked with like a nearly decapitated head.
Yeah.
And that's what we're comparing it to. You did great. What do we do with, I'll ask you, it's an open-ended question.
Right.
What is Seth Rollins doing at WrestleMania?
See, I think Seth Rollins is wrestling Kurt Angle because now that Ronda Rousey's a real thing, she's signing the contract. It makes more and more and more and more sense to me that it's going to be Stephanie McMahon and Triple H with The Rock and Rousey.
That's what they want.
That's what they want.
I know that for a fact.
That's what they want,
and not from
anybody.
The sheets.
Yeah, that's what they want, and that's hopefully the best case scenario. But now, if you would slot in a Kurt Angle match, who gets Kurt Angle? Well, the happy accident is Jason Jordan can't go now, so you slot in Kurt Angle versus Seth Rollins,
That'd be pretty great.
which sign me up. you know? And so now we get Kurt Angle on this show in a WrestleMania match that everybody wants. Gives Seth Rollins something relevant to do, because don't look now, but if if Jason Jordan was healthy, Seth Rollins would just wrestle him, or the two of them would tag and figure their stuff out against the Bar, and I would much rather have
like Gallows and Anderson.
I would much rather Gallows and Anderson.
I'm gonna I don't even believe this, but I'm just gonna say it so it's out there in the universe. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns win the tag titles at WrestleMania because it's Strowman's year. That's the guy, and that's who it should be.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of reasons why it shouldn't be. Strowman is. I'll say that Strowman hasn't hit the point where he's bigger than the title yet. If Brock's not, then he's not. Brock's the guy that's bigger than the title, and he has yet to be bigger than the title. But Seth Rollins, I hope they do it, because Braun Strowman just continues to be one of the reasons to watch. And if you're gonna go with the flow here, the flow is not. This is WrestleMania 20, and I know they're. Well, I hope not. And I get you, right? But the flow is not Triple H. Shawn beats Hunter. The flow is Benoit makes them tap out. The flow this year is not.
Roman overcomes,
right?
Or
exactly.
Something.
He
proves he's the best, and he's the one that beats the Undertaker the best.
Yep. The flow this year, WrestleMania 20. The flow this year is not somebody safe. Steve Austin not even Steve Austin, because he would have loved it. Somebody safe, dusting off The Rock and having him beat Kurt Angle, or having Kurt Angle beat him. No, the flow this year is Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, and he's going to retain.
And if you're riding the flow. Right. This year feels like Nakamura and Balor's the right choice, and we'll talk about that on the Patreon show in a little bit. And Braun Strowman's just go
Nakamura and AJ.
Nakamura and AJ, right? And Braun Strowman feels like the go with the flow guy on Raw, or Finn Balor, but
definitely Finn Balor.
Does it change?
I love Braun Strowman.
Real quick, we're going to take a break. Come back we got James on the line, and we will talk about Rob Gronkowski potentially going to the WWE.
Oh my God.
Which I have very strong feelings towards.
I do as well.
Does this where do you rank it in performance? What's your final my verdict is the best single performance in the history of 3-hour Raw. It's one of the best performances in the history of Raw, and that Monday might be the best 3-hour Raw of them all.
See, the thing that I'm going to the only stamp I'm going to put on it is the best Tyler Black Seth Rollins performance.
Okay. I know what you mean, and I think a lot of people do. When we come back, we are going to talk about a big rumor, a big name from another sport potentially coming to the WWE, big money on the table. We're going to talk to James Stewart, who's a big personality in Boston. He knows Rob Gronkowski as well as anyone around here. Want to talk about what he thinks is going down, and Rob Gronkowski, a big name potentially jumping into the WWE waters. The New Age Insiders will be right back. Hey neighborhood, your feedback and support goes a long way in helping NAI grow and provide the ultimate wrestling fan experience.
That's right, and now there's even more ways to take part in the community. Just head to patreon.com today and search for New Age Insiders.
Everyone is loving their rewards, and new exclusive content is coming all the time.
And with plans starting as low as $2 a month, any support is appreciated and goes a long way towards enhancing the New Age Insiders experience.
Once again, visit patreon.com, search New Age Insiders, and take advantage of the new rewards today.
I'm Anthony DeStefano.
I'm Glenn Rodriguez.
I'm Phil Cataldo. What do we know about wrestling?
We don't just know wrestling.
We live it.
Every week, the fans on social media disrespect each other. Welcome to the consequences.
WWE, New Japan, the Indies, we're talking about all of you.
We shield wrestling fans from injustice.
Every Friday.
On the NAI Wrestling Network.
The Hounds are here. Anthony DeStefano.
Glenn Rodriguez.
Phil Cataldo.
This is Rant with Ant.
I'm retired business executive and seasoned dad Jamie Jamakowski.
And I'm a rookie dad and local independent wrestler Scotty Slade, and we're the hosts of For the Pops.
We're the only podcast on the NAI Pop Network that has a mix of sports, wrestling, and pop culture all in under an hour.
This is a place where two pops talk about the topics that interest us with a special guest in each episode.
And we have a splash of pop culture information to help us survive in our world of wives, kids, and coworkers.
And at the end of each episode, if that wasn't enough, Jamie tests both our guest and I on obscure pop culture facts in an exclusive segment called For the Pops Quiz.
So don't miss For the Pops with Scotty Slade and me, Jamie Jamakowski, only on the NAI Pop Network.
I'm DC Matthews, the Pope of Positivity.
And I'm Doc Manson, the only actual doctor talking about wrestling on the entire internet, at least until facts prove otherwise.
And each weekend on the NAI Network, DC and Doc talk. We might talk about wrestling, but we probably won't.
Maybe I'll just eat a bowl of cereal for 30 minutes, live, on the air.
It's entirely possible.
It's happened before.
Check out DC and Doc talk every weekend on the NAI Network.
You know, it's pretty crazy, but NAI Pod has now been downloaded on 6 continents and has thousands of weekly listeners.
Yeah, step it up, Antarctica.
Does that make us intercontinental champions?
Kinda. But it also means NAI Pod is a great way to advertise your business, brand, or website.
If you would like to advertise with the New Age Insiders, shoot us an email, newageinsiders@gmail.com.
Tap into a constantly growing audience, advertise with the New Age Insiders, and take your business to main event heights. Send your emails to newageinsiders@gmail.com. That's newageinsiders@gmail.com.
You know the New Age Insiders Wrestling Show is the premier place for wrestling fans to connect, discuss, and to be heard.
But what if we told you that there's also a show for fans of all kinds to do the same?
That show is Late Night Liam. Show hosted by myself, Liam Stryker.
And me, Bill Neville. Join us immediately following NAI Pod every Wednesday as we dive into pop culture, sports, current events, and more.
Can't listen live? No worries. Late Night Liam can be downloaded on demand exclusively on the NAI Network channel. Available on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, and all podcast platforms.
Once again, join Late Night Liam live every Wednesday following NAI Pod.
When you and fans of all kinds can connect, discuss, and be heard.
Let's get back to more of the New Age Insiders. Here's Jason Maltov, Liam Stryker, and Bill Neville.
Oh, very, very fun. For those who have no idea what this is.
Is this Rob?
No, this is when the Patriots score a touchdown. This is what they play at Gillette Stadium.
Would have been great to get one more.
Yeah, we know.
Would have been great if we played our best defense, too.
Yeah.
That would have been swell.
Look, again, I'm not telling you.
It makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Just because we didn't give ourselves the best chance to win. Who knows what would have happened?
Well,
I'm not guaranteeing anything. Just give us the best chance to win.
Well, the biggest thing is with Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler is an excellent tackler, and that is the difference. It wasn't like Alshon Jeffrey was destroying the entire secondary. You just needed one third down stop. Literally one.
The Eagles went 10 for 16. That's abysmal.
Unacceptable. There was one punt.
Yeah. Right. And yeah. So, but you can listen to the Late Night Liam where Bill and I talk about that because that's a completely different thing. Or you can listen to the Felger and Maz program on the 98.5 Sports Hub app that you can download from all sorts of podcast stuff. And you can listen to Felger and Maz complain about it.
And you can hear James Stewart chime in. And I hope James Stewart is ready to chime in again with the New Age Insiders. James, let's give this another go. Thank you again for taking the time, and we're really excited to talk to you.
Technology is a wonderful thing until it doesn't work.
Right, of course.
When it doesn't work, you don't know what to do.
Technology's beautiful. Technology's beautiful until it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen. You know what I mean? It's really a remarkable thing. But we got you for the right segment.
It's brutal.
It is. But Jimmy, we got you for the right segment because we're talking about the big rumors that are out there. It's one of the biggest stories literally in sports right now.
Yeah.
Not just WWE fans, not just wrestling fans are talking about this. This is a mainstream story that ESPN has picked up, Fox Sports 1, 98.5 The Sports Hub on Boston's #1 rated afternoon show, Felger and Maz, that Jimmy Stewart produces. It's a legitimate story. The rumors out there are pretty big money. I've heard the number $5 million a year to work a limited schedule. There's a lot to this. There's a lot to talk about, just kind of guys that have crossed over and made it work. There's guys that have crossed over and not made it work. But James, what do you think of the reports and the rumors? And Rob Gronkowski, WWE. What do you think?
So I had floated out the $5 million number a few weeks ago based on I had guessed that Rob Gronkowski made about $1 million doing WrestleMania in Orlando last year. And I quickly got texted by people who said that my number was close, but it was high. So assuming he made, say, $850,000 for that one appearance, which, again, doesn't come out of a talent budget, but it comes out of a marketing budget because WWE is looking for the ESPN video and the USA Today headline. So I know Brock Lesnar made probably close to $12 million last year. Somebody told me it might have been closer to 15 for 35 to 50 dates, maybe about 10 matches. And I think Ronda's getting about $5 million per year from WWE because it's a Stephanie McMahon project. So it's a strong offer for Rob Gronkowski to do wrestling full time. Has to be around $5 million.
Right.
And I think if they put him in a style that is close to, we all remember Jim the Anvil Neidhart, tag team partner with Bret Hart, the Hart Foundation. If they gave him a style like that, he could do 10 matches a year, 35 appearances a year, and make that kind of money and be a wrestling star. And maybe he moves into WWE films. Maybe he does a limited schedule of Nickelodeon shows. Like, I just think that the math equation and the fact that he's not taking as much of a pounding, it makes a lot of sense to me.
So go ahead.
Oh,
I get strong opinions.
It makes a lot of sense. Just
That's
based
a lot of information there. Sorry.
No, keep it coming, man.
No,
keep it coming.
It makes a lot of sense just because he's taken a beating, and I'm not even just talking about his time with the New England Patriots. He had back surgery, and that's the reason why he dropped in the draft.
Yeah.
He would have been a top 5 tight end coming out of college. If
You
he
could
didn't
argue
have...
he's the best. You could argue he's
Yes.
the best tight end ever, and
Right.
he's missed seasons worth of games cumulatively by now. You know what I mean?
Right. And so I think that this is logical for him because he's able to step into a physical arena, an arena he likes and could potentially thrive in. You look at some of the Moose comes to mind immediately as somebody that he could emulate, somebody, winning championships, being a big part of a promotion. Now we're talking about the WWE level. I don't know if his personality, his personality fits.
No,
I don't think his ability to act.
I think he'd be terrible.
I think
he would be terrible in everything about it. Everything they need him to do, I think he would be terrible.
But he does these Nickelodeon cartoons, and he doesn't need to act in those. He just needs to read the script and let the cartoon character do.
Right, exactly.
But we've all driven around. We've all driven
here's
around
the
and
thing.
heard the Dunkin' Donuts commercials.
Yeah, but those are bad. He's
Yes,
bad in them.
yes.
He's bad. And to Jimmy's point, in the cartoon, you know what he's doing in the cartoon? He's in a studio where he has as much time and takes as he needs, right? This is not the same as handing a guy a live mic in front of 15,000 people and asking him to connect. If I'm Vince McMahon, so let me say this because I think this thing would be a disaster, and I really do. If I'm Vince McMahon, I have spent millions of dollars and going on 4 WrestleManias trying to get this guy made of cardboard to connect to this audience, and it's seemingly impossible. I want Roman Reigns to work so bad, it's becoming a point of frustration. It's taking years off my life. I'm Vince McMahon.
Yes.
This is going to kill me, but I'm going to make it work. I will push this boulder up this hill. You know what I mean? And this guy, Roman Reigns, who's 6'5", in great shape, handsome, seems like
somehow always wet.
Seems like a really nice guy. Seems like a guy that would be easy to like.
He's a fabulous guy.
He is.
He's a really likable guy.
I've heard nothing but good things about that dude from fans and from people that work behind the scenes. So why is he so despised? Because there's a difference between being personable and charismatic. Roman Reigns is very personable, but he is a vacuum of natural charisma. That brings me to Rob Gronkowski, who's a lot of fun because his personality is big dumb dog. And we all love the big dumb dog. However, there's no place in WWE long term for 10 big time matches a year from the big dumb dog. And so what I would tell you is we got to make him a bad guy because he's a New England Patriot, and 46 states and every country is going to hate him right away. There's no way I'm going to Pittsburgh and this guy's popping the crowd. No way. Zero.
Right.
So now I got to make him a bad guy. And what's the problem with being a bad guy? With being a bad guy, you actually have to be way better than the good guys because I need you to not be Jinder Mahal. And that brings me to my final point before I open it up, is that in the NFL, all 6'5", 6'6", 270 of Rob Gronkowski is bigger than the backfield. But in the WWE, he ain't bigger than Brock. Braun Strowman, Jinder Mahal, Roman Reigns. He doesn't tower over these people the way he does in the secondary. And so now I need him to be a really good, dominant heel. When he's really dumb, it's never going to work. It will never work.
See, I think that it would work because I mean,
not at all.
In the very limited time that we had experiencing it at Orlando at WrestleMania last year, he didn't feel out of place. And what's the big thing that we've talked about with Ronda Rousey? The big thing we've talked about with Ronda Rousey as to why that is going to work is that she likes this. She is a fan of this.
She's also smart.
Right. But
he's not.
Yeah, but at the same time...
And it's also a Stephanie McMahon project, so she's going to make it work.
Jimmy, you're right.
That's very true. But Rob Gronkowski, I think if he wanted to put his physical mind to this, he'd be able to do it. Because playing tight end in the NFL is hard.
Right, but okay, then he has to be Goldberg. Like, can Rob Gronkowski pick up the Big Show? I don't think so.
Right.
I just don't.
But at the same time, it also depends on what you're asking him to do.
Goldberg.
Because if you're asking him to Goldberg, I don't know. But if you're asking him to
Mojo Rawley, incapable.
No.
Well, incapable. He can't do that.
See, that's what I'm asking him. That's what I would ask him to do. And I think that even teaming with him or aligning himself in situations where he's the break glass in case of emergency guy, I think that that's the type of person he could be. I've heard it, and I have no idea where I heard this. It might have been on the Felger and Maz show, but
let's go with that.
We'll go with that. I think that the play here is for him to be the commissioner of the XFL.
From what I've heard, if they're going to get him to leave football early, that would be to do this, not to do anything XFL related. I think he would be a disaster. James, let's say he does. What are your expectations? Because I got to think their expectation level is so you're going to come in for 10 times a year. You got to be like Brock or Goldberg or like Ronda Rousey, right? Ronda Rousey is an ultimate fighter, a smart woman, and her whole gimmick just has to be, I make no noise, I come in, I make you tap out, I leave. I can get 6 months out of that. Rob Gronkowski has to be the fun party boy, Adam Rose, Mojo Rawley dude. And I don't think with a live mic, 15,000 people in one shot, that guy has a prayer of excelling in that role. He is football smart and real world stupid, and I think it would catch up to him. James, what do you think? If he does sign, what would your actual expectations be as a wrestling fan for Rob Gronkowski?
So to take kind of the Weasley point of view out is that we really don't know if he's going to, to use your term, connect with the audience. We didn't know Goldberg was going to connect. We didn't. There are countless examples of wrestlers who were like, "This is the guy. This is going to be gold." I mean, I disagree with you on Roman Reigns. I think that there's no main guy. There's no Bruno. There's no Hogan. There's no Flair. There's no Cena. Roman is the best of that tier, and that's why they continuously go to him, because he's selling merchandise and getting reactions. It's not about overwhelming cheers. As far as my expectations for Gronk, 6 months to a year training, and maybe you put him in a tag team with Mojo and you build him along slowly and you protect him, and maybe he turns into a Goldberg type. Maybe he turns into a guy who can go 20 minutes. We won't actually know until he gets out there. I think that with the WWE's track record is that they will teach him how to do promos. They will teach him how to do smart promos. At a worst case scenario, put him with a guy who can talk, or just have him look so dominant. I mean, that tackle he put on Jinder Mahal last year looked good. And credit to Gronk for connecting on it, but credit for Jinder for taking a smart bump on it. And maybe his ring positioning should have been a little further from the ropes, but the way that Jinder sold it was tremendous, and it got them over. So if you align him with somebody who can really sell, which selling is becoming a lost art in wrestling, but that's a whole nother podcast. You can make
more than
him
welcome to come
into
on for
something where the fans believe. What do we think of the New Day when they started out?
Yeah, but those
we
are
didn't
three
buy
talented
into it,
pro.
But they kept working at it, and they kept trying to evolve, and eventually they connected with the audience.
But they were 3 plug-and-play talented personalities waiting for an opportunity. Rob Gronkowski to me, and I love him. I'm a Patriots fan. I adore him. But what we've got to talk about is all the... You know why WWE survives while company after company after company fails? Is because they don't get it the way WWE does, and this thing's intricate. I know you know that, Jimmy, but what I'm saying is I'm going to make Rob Gronkowski a big-time face. And I have to make him a big-time face in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he's public enemy number 1. And so I have to work. I know it's not okay. So what about the times we're not in Pittsburgh? Well, he's not going to be too popular in any other major city.
But I also think that Gronk is one of the NFL players that kind of transcends. Like, there are people that are like, I like Rob Gronkowski. I hate the Patriots, right? And Rob Gronkowski is one of those people because they do see him on Instagram. They do see him on Snapchat.
They're fewer and far between.
I think that he's one of those, like,
he's not Tom Brady, but he's still a New England Patriot who beats you.
If we did the ESPN, This Is ESPN commercials still, where they like wandered around and they were there, Gronk would be one of the more entertaining versions of that.
I get that, but I do think that there is the potential of you going to Philadelphia, parts of Florida, New York, and this guy's instantly behind the 8 ball right away.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then so now I got to if you're going to be a babyface that overcomes that, you got to be pretty good.
Right.
And I'm not telling you he can't be. He's an excellent athlete. He's also an excellent athlete with a bad back who's thinking about this because of how beat up he is.
Right.
He's in his 20s and thinking about retiring.
He's 28.
That's not because he's lost his love for football. That's because his body goes, hey, I don't know about this.
Right.
So now you're going to be a pro wrestler, and I need you to pick up the world to impress me like Bill Goldberg did, and you're not Bill Goldberg who does shoulder presses before matches with Brock Lesnar with golf carts.
Well, I also think that
you're kind of going through revisionist history here.
Right.
We didn't know who Goldberg was before he became Goldberg.
Right, but I think that worked for him. You didn't hate the Falcons.
That I saw on TV, I was front row for Nitro, and he's in there against Ming, and I'm like, okay, he looks good, but like, who is he?
Right,
and
but that's not
they
Rob
kept
Gronkowski.
building and building.
Right. But Bill Goldberg was some guy you've never heard of on the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, you're also assuming that he retires tomorrow and is on Raw the next night, and I think that there's going to be a period where Rob Gronkowski would be in the Performance Center, because he's not a plug-and-play guy. You have to teach him how to pro wrestle. And I think that he's physically talented enough that he would be able to pick this up. If he cared about picking this up the way he's picked up NFL playbooks, then
So what does that mean?
That's as smart as I need you to be.
And Jimmy, I want to open this up to you as well. But what I'm hearing is conflicting things. Because what I hear is he's going to work real hard to become this like attraction sometimes guy.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing that big attraction, break case of emergency, is going to be, tagging with Mojo Rawley because it's safe. I'm sorry, I don't think that headlines a single pay-per-view any company can offer you.
Right, but we are also looking into a void where we don't know what their plan for him is, because right now,
I am just throwing out hypotheticals to you guys. I think that their offer to Gronk is real, and I think in a lot of cases with their programming, they're just going to get him and figure it out.
Yeah.
And work with him on what he can and can't do. But to the Goldberg point is, we all saw Goldberg and we saw like how he looked and he was raw. And I think that added to him. If there is some realism with Rob Gronkowski like there was with Bill Goldberg, and hell, he concussed Bret Hart and caused other people bodily damage. But if there's that realism element, like, that's choreographed, but you know what? Gronk looks real.
Yeah.
Then that's enough of a draw to get somebody. One of my favorite matches from last year's WrestleMania was the Goldberg-Brock Lesnar match, because it looked like these two bulls just having it out. And yes, it was a pro wrestling match, but it looked authentic.
Yeah, and so
it looked like these two guys were really battling over a championship. And if they put Gronk in a position where there's that realism element, they've got something there. And they don't need him to cut promos. They can have somebody else do that for them.
Paul Heyman.
Right, I agree with that, but that means he's a bad guy, and you have to be better when you're a bad guy. Brock Lesnar can pick up the ring. That's why it works with Paul Heyman. Look at Ryback.
Right.
It's not just give him Paul Heyman.
No, but look at somebody like Braun Strowman, right? Braun Strowman physically had all the tools, but he needed time to get everything together.
Yeah, but he had that personality waiting.
Right.
You can't teach that.
Right, but I think that the best directors are able to bring out the best performance in their actors, right?
Yep.
So that's the issue with Rob Gronkowski, right? The issue is that you need to be able to talk to him in a way that he can connect. Now, here's the other thing, right? You're looking at this as we've listened to the Dunkin' Donuts commercials, right? Where it seems forced. We've seen the thing with him and Big Papi, when they were at the Dunkin' house and they recorded an album or something.
Acts like a drunk high school kid in a play.
Right. So there's that. But this is pro wrestling. He's been watching it his whole life, and there are the best actors in the world that suck at the pro wrestling aspect of this. And so, look at someone like Hugh Jackman, right? Hugh Jackman, fantastic actor, Tony Award-winning play actor, right? He's phenomenal. He's been in front of live crowds. He was not good in a wrestling ring the several times he's been on this show. Rob Gronkowski has watched this, understands this, and I think that you're not going to give him enough credit for the ability to know what it sounds like.
I agree. I might be selling him short because I think that's going to be his biggest problem. I think he's going to grab that mic and he's going to come off as a bonehead. I'm sorry. I love him, but I'm just being real with you as a wrestling fan.
Name me your favorite Ryback promo.
Yeah, but Ryback failed. You know what I mean? But at least, and here's the other thing, but Ryback could pick people up.
Long term, Ryback failed, absolutely. But short term, when he was 39-0, going into Hell in a Cell against CM Punk, there was talk about putting the title on him.
Yeah,
because
right.
People bought into him.
And that's you're right, Jimmy, and that's exactly what's going to have to happen then, is he has to be able to look like Ryback, which he doesn't, and he has to be able to pick up people two at a time and march around the ring, I don't know if
it's also Scotty Slade and Makazi.
Right, but the equivalent of it, can a guy with a bad back do that? I literally don't know.
Right.
And so you talk about Bill Goldberg, and Bill Goldberg's an unknown mystery man who we started out having him not talk to Mean Gene and then clear house because he can squat 700 pounds.
Right.
Rob Gronkowski, I don't think is going to be presented
that way. I think you're also... I think Rob Gronkowski's not going to be presented that way, and I think that it's unfair to put him in that camp, because I don't think that you're signing... look at Baron Corbin, right? Baron Corbin was an offensive lineman. In theory, he's stronger than Rob Gronkowski, right? If we're talking about how football players operate, and they don't treat Baron Corbin as a guy who is a powerhouse and lifts up the gym,
right? But they present him as a Gold Glove. They call him Mr. Gold, the Golden Glove guy.
Right.
He's presented as a fighter. The football thing's a footnote for him.
Right,
Rob
but that's what I'm
Gronkowski,
saying.
That'll be his identity.
Right.
It's his
but
identity.
Just because he's a football player doesn't mean he has to wrestle like Goldberg or Ryback. Or he has to be presented that way.
I think because you're going to be worked 10 times a year. You have to give me special matches.
Right, but Rob Gronkowski is presented on personality. That's what
and I think it's going to fail.
And I think you're not giving him enough credit. Because, again, I point back to Ronda Rousey. The difference is that the reason Ronda's going to succeed is because she likes this. The reason why I think it's going to succeed, do I think it's going to be like, oh my God, Rob Gronkowski found his calling? No, I don't.
They're going to pay him like it.
I no.
$5 million a year, you better be pretty good.
Yeah, but
Dolph Ziggler makes 1.5 and just became the highest base salary on the roster. If I'm giving Rob Gronkowski $5 million a year, you better be decent.
Yeah, but you're going to bring in a lot of eyes and stuff.
I hope.
I promise you, by the way, that Dolph Ziggler is not the highest paid member of the roster.
It's a base salary thing, and I've heard that that's also not exactly exactly accurate either.
No, I'm not disputing the 1.5. I actually believe the 1.5 is either fully accurate or close enough. But with the money that's being made in that company, that number isn't obnoxious. That number isn't too far off.
Right. You're right.
There are a lot of guys making over $1 million, and Dolph, I actually feel pretty confident in saying is one of those guys.
I believe you.
If you think, and I don't want to go too far off of the Gronk thing, but Dolph had leverage here where he could go, and he may have had an offer from New Japan, he may have had an offer from Ring of Honor, he may have been all in, but I think that number is pretty accurate, and that's where you can kind of go back to WWE offering Ronda $5-ish million and Gronk $5-ish million, because they think that there's mainstream attention for those guys. And, if they want to pay Dolph $1.5 million to do jobs, God love them.
Jimmy, the point Liam made is undeniable that he's a big wrestling fan, so he knows what it's supposed to look like and all that stuff. It's real. But the fact that he's a big wrestling fan is it's different than anybody else. Like, when they offered, what was her name? The chick in NXT now, Girlberg, Ronda Rousey's friend.
Oh,
Shayna Baszler, right? Shayna Baszler, from what I understand, likes wrestling and all that stuff, but I'm not sure she's like the diehard that Rousey was. Rousey wanted to do this. Baszler probably talked herself into doing this.
Yeah.
Rob Gronkowski wants to do this. I actually have very little doubt that he's going to sign a contract one day. But Jimmy, I want to know, is Rob Gronkowski going to consider, would there be a year of football he doesn't contractually obligate himself to go to the WWE, quote unquote, early? Would he leave football earlier than he thought to do this?
So I don't think so, but I'll tell you what I think is, I think we're going to see Rob Gronkowski in New Orleans this year in some sort of either tag team match with Mojo or some sort of angle with Jinder Mahal. I think he's going to be back with the Patriots after all of that is said and done, and he's probably going to have a new contract.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the door is going to be completely closed on wrestling, and I think you'll see him pop up here or there. And I think it's because he likes it. I think longer term, it's something that he really wants to do. But I don't think that you're going to see Rob Gronkowski retire, tomorrow to take a full-time job with the WWE. But I think it's on the table for him.
I think that there could be very well a year he might have played that he omits to do the WWE thing.
I also do think that all the speculation started swirling after the Super Bowl when he was asked about retiring, and he was like, him and Han, I don't know.
Right.
WWE saw an opportunity to throw a contract at him to be like, oh, look, he might retire to wrestle.
And they've had interest for a year.
And so now all of a sudden WWE's in the mainstream. Everybody's talking about WWE at the perfect time because it's WrestleMania season. And then on the flip side, I think Rob Gronkowski's like, yeah, look, I got this legit offer to wrestle for $5 million. Patriots, what are you going to do for me? Because I don't want to play for this. I need to be an all-pro tight end to be paid like the best tight end to ever play the game.
Well, and not only that, again, it has to be said, this is a boyhood dream for this guy to be a pro wrestler.
Right.
To an opportunity to be a WWF superstar is something I'm guessing this guy has wanted as long as we've all, wrestled pillows and main evented WrestleMania in our bedrooms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is a real thing for this guy.
Is that also what you call having sex with a girl?
Yeah, I'm main eventing WrestleMania in my bedroom.
Yeah.
in a way. But
think about this though: is that Rob Gronkowski has already had one finish changed in WrestleMania history. If he's not in Orlando, Mojo doesn't win that Battle Royal.
You're right.
And then Jinder Mahal wins that Battle Royal, and maybe we look at him a little bit differently a few months down the road when he beats Randy Orton and becomes my WWE champion.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It would have at least made a little more sense. You are right. Yeah. And I think that Rob Gronkowski, because you're right, it's that, like, I've wanted to do this my whole life thing. That's not Goldberg. I know I keep saying Goldberg. It's not just because it's me. It's because it's the most successful football player turned into pro wrestler ever.
Lawrence Taylor main evented.
So what if Gronk turns into Steve McMichael?
Then that's...
Is that a win? Is that a success?
Do you call Mongo McMichael a win? Has anybody ever done that? No, it's not.
I'm asking, but he made a lot of money. He was in the Horsemen. People were interested. He was good on the mic. So, like, is that a win? Or, is he Lawrence Taylor where he does one match? Is he Kevin Green who does one match? Like, would you consider them failures?
You know who I think he's going to...
Like, he could be... I don't know what the analogy is. I'm just going through, like, could he be Ernie the Cat Ladd, if you want to go back even further?
Okay, so,
like,
you know who he can be?
It's all relative.
So let me take it away from football because there's more guys like this. So there's 3 tiers to me of ultimate fighters that have succeeded in pro wrestling. And I know the timeline's different with Brock Lesnar, but bear with me. There's the tippy top, which is Brock Lesnar. There's that second shelf, which is Ken Shamrock. And then to me, there's that third shelf, which is like Dan Severn. And I think that Gronkowski football-wise, would never reach the tops of Bill Goldberg, multiple-time world champion for 2 different companies. But what he can maybe be is somewhere between Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn. I wouldn't call Dan Severn a failure, but I think it was like, eh. And I think that Ken Shamrock was great. I loved him, and a fun part of the program. Yeah. Best case scenario for Rob Gronkowski is he can be a fun part of the program that you remember but maybe not cherish, is what I would say Rob Gronkowski can be.
I think if Ken Shamrock had hung around a little bit longer in WWE, I think he would have been the world champion at some point, because he had that look and he had that believability, because at one point he was the world's most dangerous man.
Right.
But if you're telling me that Rob Gronkowski ends up being Steve McMichael and having a good, successful run as, you know, a second-tier champion, or in main event spots, whether it be War Games or the match against the Horsemen where he turned and the briefcase got the briefcase full of money and things of that sort, like I would consider that a win. I really would. I would consider that a win for Rob Gronkowski.
If we make money, then yeah, no problem. My whole thing about Rob Gronkowski is, we wrap this up just because I could talk to you all day about this, Jimmy. We love having you on, and we'll have you on again. You're welcome here anytime. But my whole thing is with, you know.
Yeah, hopefully next time I'll actually make the drive instead of trying to do it on Skype.
Yeah, exactly. Right now we're talking to Jimmy with we have a can and he has a can, and there's a really long string.
Really long string.
And it's okay. But when, you know, I hate to, because you're right. And let me say this out loud, because you're right. You know who Rob Gronkowski, and I know this is very kindergarten-y, you know who Rob Gronkowski should try to be in the WWE? The best Rob Gronkowski he can be.
Right.
So it's unfair to compare him to all these guys, especially guys that are either Hall of Famers or borderline guys. I get you. But what I would say is, when I had to introduce you to Ken Shamrock, he was a legit Ultimate Fighter, shredded top to bottom. Yeah. And so when I brought him in, I could make him the King of the Ring. I could make him the Intercontinental Champion. I could put him in the corporation. You got it. When I introduce a guy like Bill Goldberg, he's a silent guy from the Falcons you've never heard of, and he's this killer right away, all business. Rob Gronkowski is, although he's in great physical shape, he doesn't tower over anybody. He comes with a very specific kind of cred, not Ultimate Fighting cred, not mystery cred, big dumb dog cred, right? He's basically big, giant, jacked, like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. And you know what I mean? Like, he is if LMFAO was one person. You know what I mean? It's Rob Gronkowski. And
yeah, see, that's better. I like that one.
And so I have he's if ecstasy was a person, you know, is Rob Gronkowski. And so I just don't know how he is going to connect with people who don't want to like him because he's a Patriot, who are going to give him a hard time because he's some football player trying to play wrestling, which we know the internet's going to call him at first. And unless he comes in Bill Goldberg's Hugh Morris, I think it's much more likely to not pan out than work the way they think it might.
See, I think that they're going to put him in the best position to succeed, because they're not going to ask him to wrestle Seth Rollins for 20 minutes.
Right, but then again, these 10 time a year.
Right.
Rousey's going to be great.
Well, I'm
Brock's
saying
great.
At first, because you got it. Like, Braun Strowman didn't wrestle at all in the beginning. Right? And if you had what you had back then when he debuted with the Wyatts, right? And he was being able to tear down sets and stuff, and you could have done that then, shame on you,
right.
WWE.
Again,
so the same thing with Rob Gronkowski, where it's like, look, yeah, he's not going to be great in the beginning, right? Because nobody is. Nobody that ends up in that spot. So not everybody is Seth Rollins, who's been wrestling for 50 years at the age of 34, right? So not everybody is that guy.
Yeah.
And so asking Rob Gronkowski to come in and, like you just said, be the best Rob Gronkowski he can be. Yeah. I think he likes this enough. He's in shape enough. And I think that his personality can adapt to this well enough that I think he's going to do all right. I also think that this is all going to be so moot because the Patriots are going to give him the contract he wants, and he's not going to retire.
Right. I don't think it's going to happen next year, but I think it is eventually going to happen. I also think he's a dumb with a bad back, and the whole thing will fail. Jim, because Braun Strowman, right? And again, my final point. Braun Strowman, you're right. Braun Strowman wasn't great at first, but you know what he always was? He was always 6'8". He was always bigger than Brock Lesnar. We always had a shot. Rob Gronkowski is not going to show up and be the biggest guy.
But I'm not asking him to be.
But in a way, you're asking a guy to be a 10-time-a-year spectacle. So you kind of are asking him to be Brock Lesnar. You kind of are. Ronda Rousey's going to be the girl Brock Lesnar.
You keep talking about how it's size. It's his size that...
Why should I care about him? I'm the average fan who doesn't like the Patriots. Why should I care?
Because
he's amazing. It's the only reason.
It's the personality. It's the party personality.
Big dumb dog.
It's the party personality.
Big dumb dog.
Because I think you're underselling that across the country.
Jimmy, before we let you go, and again, thank you so much.
Well, and I think just one final point on Gronk is that we're all assuming that there's this crossover audience between wrestling and sports. And it doesn't always work out that way.
At all.
I know a lot of people who are just wrestling fans who don't watch pro sports. I know people who do pro sports who don't watch wrestling. So I think, and we're all in the internet age where we read everything. I don't necessarily think that the guy with his clicker reads everything. And I think that's what they might be appealing more to, is the people who are like, oh yeah, I've kind of heard of Rob Gronkowski. I think he plays football, but I don't know anything about him. So they may have a more open mind about him, rather than like you're looking at him going into Pittsburgh and being like, how is he going to be a good guy in Pittsburgh? He doesn't need to be. And speaking of the Pittsburgh thing, and this will hopefully tie this all into a bow, but if you guys watched the history of the Royal Rumble documentary that came out on Blu-ray maybe a year or two ago, there's a scene after Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble where he's booed out of the building, standing next to The Rock. And Michael Hayes goes to Roman Reigns and says, don't worry about them. They're the exception. We're looking at the bigger global spectrum of the WWE. That's how they think. They're not thinking about isolated crowd in Philadelphia who hates things. They may think about New Orleans crowd, or they may think about Orlando crowd. But in the bigger picture of things, they're looking at, wow, Roman Reigns is selling 20,000 T-shirts to 7-year-olds, or Gronk is going to sell football jerseys to 18 to 54 males, and he's going to sell 100,000 of them. That's what they're looking for. And if they invest in Gronk, like I think they've invested in Ronda Rousey, and like they've invested in Roman Reigns, they're going to, by hell or high water, they're going to make it work.
Jimmy, I think it is a matter of time. For the record, as much as I think it's not going to work, I think it's going to happen. And I don't think it's going to happen next year. I think it happens in the next 3. I think by 3 years from now, we are talking about at the very least Rob Gronkowski putting pen to paper in the Performance Center. I could see him signing one more 2-year deal with the Patriots, maybe one more 1-year deal with the Patriots, maybe signing a 10-year deal with the Patriots and walking away from it. Because again, the only reason we're having this conversation, there's so much that works against him. We're having this conversation because he's almost too beat up for football, but now he's going to be able to be a pro wrestler. Again, we're saying that the guy. Don't worry that some people don't know he's a football player, but I think that's 80% of his appeal. And then there's going to be the people that do know he's a football player. Most towns are going to hate him. I just think there's so much working against him. Now, could he come in, be surprised, be this natural at it, right? What business did an Olympian have at being one of the best pro wrestlers ever? And then Kurt Angle did it. Fine.
Right.
I wouldn't bet on it, but I do definitely
Mark Henry got a 10-year contract.
Yeah, but Mark Henry's good at it.
Mark Henry was just a weightlifter.
Right, but there's a personality there you can't teach. And again, there's a difference between
I would
personality
say
and charisma. There's just a difference.
Yeah.
Mark Henry's got charisma.
I
but
don't
walking
think so.
in, Mark Henry was nothing. They put him in USA colors, and they put him next to Jerry Lawler.
Yep.
And he was under a 10-year contract. So they tried forever to make it work. And eventually, they made it work, but it took a long time for them to.
Right.
So it's the investment, and it's trying to figure out how the talent can connect. And Mark Henry, to me, until they made him the world's strongest man, and they gave him the great music, if somebody's going to get their ass kicked, and they put him around the right talent, and they showcased him properly, it wasn't until then where the crowd started connecting. And, one of my favorite Mark Henry moments was when he beat up John Cena.
Yeah.
And because it was great, nobody saw it coming.
Salmon jacket.
But it took, it takes a while sometimes where not everybody's going to step in the ring and be Kurt Angle, and you're like, wow, he's in a match with Sean Stasiak. He grabs the mic, does that promo. It's like, wow, we might have something here.
Yeah. And Jimmy, I think
look on a much different scale. Look at how long it took The Rock to get over.
Right.
White meat babyface in Madison Square Garden, smiles at everybody. They give him the IC title off of Hunter, and then he flounders, gets hurt, off TV, starts speaking in the third person, milking the camera, rolling his eyes when Farouk is talking, and now you've got a star.
You're right.
But
Believe
it took
me.
him 2 years.
And we've got to get out of here. Bill's going to yell at us. He already is with his eyes. But
it's my fault.
You're right. No, Jimmy, but you're right because, and again, we love you. We could do this for another hour, and we'd love to have you back. But again, and my central point, and I don't know, but my central point is with Mark Henry and with The Rock, there was this talent there waiting to get undusted. I don't believe Rob Gronkowski possesses that because it's a charisma thing. I just don't think you can teach it. You can find it. I don't think you can teach it. And I don't think he has it.
See,
I could be totally wrong.
I disagree
because
he's got the personality. He's got a captivating personality.
He's a big dumb dog, which is endearing. But I think to connect at all with a WWE audience, you have to be more than a big dumb dog. Mojo Rawley's not connecting with anybody. They're the same person. And no one cares about Mojo Rawley. Seriously, they're the same guy. Like literally, they might be brothers. They're the same guy. No one cares. That's the best case scenario for him, right? He's super fun. Well, Adam Rose got fired, and Mojo Rawley can't get over to the point where now he's a bad guy over it. I don't know, Jimmy. Again, now's a good time to plug. Where can people find you online and all that great stuff? Thank you again so much for joining the New Age Insiders. You are welcome here anytime. And your phone connection in the second half of the show. What a performance. You're definitely a Patriots fan. You're a second half team.
I am James Stewart on Twitter. I actually hate football and I hate the Patriots, but we can keep that between us.
Jimmy's a Celtics
I'll make
guy.
the trek down there so that we don't have connection issues. But I just think overall, I think you're going to see Gronk do the wrestling thing, at least this year in New Orleans. And maybe I'm wrong, but you'll see him do New Orleans. You'll see him get a new contract with the Patriots, and then Gronk full-time wrestler training. And where it goes from there, believe in Vince McMahon maybe, possibly. He's gotten a lot of them right. Maybe he can get this one right.
He's not bad. That guy's pretty good at this. You know what I mean? The whole wrestling promotion thing. Again, the executive producer of the #1 rated afternoon show in Boston, Felger and Maz on 98.5 The Sports Hub. You can find him on Twitter at James Stewart.
Behind the three who are #1.
I love it. Is that a T-shirt you have yet? If not, missed opportunity.
We have a represent. You can put it on there.
There you go. Well, we'll be working together with you in no time. Tell Zoe we said hi.
Pro Wrestling Tees.
Pro Wrestling Tees. We have one of those too. We do. We have a Pro Wrestling Tees as well, Jimmy. Tell Zoe we said hi. Thank you again so much for joining us. Please do come back, and we'll talk to you real soon, bud. You were great.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You got it. That's it for us. The next time you're going to hear from us is if you're a Patreon. You go to patreon.com/New Age Insiders. We're going to talk about the main event of WrestleMania. The Rant with Ant guys posed an interesting posed an interesting question, and we're poised to answer it. The Rant with Ant guys got poisoned. And in their memory, we are going to talk about whether or not WWE is going to stick to their guns with Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles. Some fans might go, are you guys really stretching here for a topic? I would tell you that with all this talk of is Dolph Ziggler getting added? Is Nia Jax getting added? This trend of somebody...
Eventually somebody will.
Getting added is very on the table, and... yeah, we've got the rug pulled out from us before. So we're going to be talking about AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura and their main event road, and let's hope that they clear all the hurdles to get there. We have a whole pay-per-view. You never know. We'll talk about it on Patreon.com. There's also our complete backlogged history of shows. The latest Be Heard is up there. Patreon is up there. Late Night Liam is following this immediately.
Yes, it is. We're going to be talking about a lot of different nonsense. Get Out was re-released in theaters over Patriots Day weekend, or President's Day weekend, as well as I went and saw Black Panther, so I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Black Panther movie.
Awesome.
And I got Movie Pass and how that has changed my life.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to it. If you're listening live on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock like you should be on NewAgeInsiders.com, don't go anywhere. It's going to be just minutes away. The Patreon show will be up tomorrow. The Be Heard, like I said, a backlogged is up there and ready. Big, huge shout out to James Stewart again for joining us. It won't be the last time. this Sunday. You can hear us even if you're not a Patreon before and after.
You can call.
Right. Be WWE Elimination Chamber. Your predictions before the show. Your reactions after the show. What aren't we doing? Follow us on iTunes, Podomatic, Lork, Normal, Stitcher. Follow New Age Insiders Pop on iTunes, Podomatic, Lork, Normal, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play. Follow us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Everything that you're doing, we're there. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, give a comment. Goes a long way in the algorithm. My name has been Jason Maltov.
I am Liam Striker.
And I'm Bill Neville.
We're the New Age Insiders. We're way over time. You can find us on Twitter. Please do. We are at New Age Insiders, at Liam NAI, at Bill Neville NAI. We are the 2018 Best Live Show of the Year according to the Wrestling Radio Awards, which means that's according to you because altogether we are the premier place for wrestling fans to connect, discuss, and to be heard.
We out.